Hello, today we're going to be going over 11.1 common factor. What is a common factor? A common factor is a number that is found most often or most commonly between a set of numbers in an equation. And moving up a little bit further, the greatest common factor. Greatest common factor is essentially the same thing, but the biggest number that you can find between it. To read the definition, the greatest common factor of two whole numbers is the largest factor they have in common. So let's go into an example and try and show that. Find the greatest common factor, GCF, of 36 and 64. First things first, let's try and go into the smaller number, 36. And from here, what we have to do is look into each and every factor that goes into 36. So what two numbers multiply into 36? So the easiest one, first one is 1. 1 times 36 is 36. And we can start going up from there. 2. Does 2 go into 36? Yes, it does, because it's an even number. 36 divided by 2, that's 2 goes into 3 one time. It leaves a 1, 6. 8 times 2 is 16. So you find that 18 times 2 is 36. Next we go up one more. 36. Is 36 divisible by 3? It is. You can do an easy division if you're having trouble with that. We'll do that real quick. 1, 2. So 12. Next, 4. Does 4 go into 36? We can find that quickly. 4 times 10 is 40, and subtract 4 by that, it's equal to 46. So 9 as well. 4 times 9 is 36. Does 5 go into 36? Well, you can quickly know that by looking at this last digit. It's not a 0 or a 5, which means that it's not divisible. 6. Is 6 a factor of 36? Well, if you know your multiplication table, you know that 6 times 6 is 36. 7. Does 7 go into 36? 7 times 5 is 35, so no. Does 8 go into 36? 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32, so no. So I believe that here we found all of our factors. So once you've found all of your factors that go into 36, now you can move on to the second number, 64. And we repeat the same process. Factors of 64. I'm going to spread this out a little bit to give myself a little bit more space. So 1 times 64 is 64. Now let's go up. 2. 64 divided by 2, what is that? That is 32. 3. We can do a quick way to know if something is divisible by 3 is the divisibility rule. If it adds up, 6 plus 4, does that equal to a number that's divisible by 3? No. So we know that 64, 3 is not a factor of 64. Next, let's go up to 4. 64 divided by 4. We can do some quick mental math. 4 goes into 6 one time. That leaves 2. Bring it down. 24 times 4 is 6. So 6. 4 times 6. 4 times 6. Right? No, I think 4 times 16. Excuse me. 24. 4 times 24. Excuse me. Sorry. 4 times 24. No. 20. Oh, my mental math is a little off. Let's just 64 divided by 4. It's 1. 4. 2. Bring that down. 24. 16. There. 24. Excuse me there. Sorry about that. 16. 5, we know that it's not because it's a 4. Or not, it's not a 5 or a 0. 6, 64 divisible by 6. Let's check that out. I'm pretty sure it's not. So, but just to make sure, 1, 6, 4, that, no, it would be a decimal. 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 7, 7 times 9 is 63. So no. 8 times 8. 8 times 8 we know is a factor. So 8 times 8 is 64. And lastly, 9. Does 9 go into 64? Let's see. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 8 is 72. So no. I believe we found all the factors. Just to make sure, 10 is not divisible. 11 is not divisible. 12. Does 12 go into 64? 12 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Times 1, 48, plus 12 is 60. So no, I believe these are all factors. Now, once you've found every single factor of these numbers, we then can look and see which one is common. 1 is common between these two. 2 is common between these two. 4 is common between these two. Do I need more show? No. And since we're looking for the greatest common factor, we see that 4 is the biggest out of 1 and 2. So the greatest common factor is 4. Okay, so jumping from the simple, basic common factor, we want to try and do something a little bit different, and we want to try and factor completely. So obviously, what we're looking for is the greatest common factor between these numbers in this expression, and we don't see that there is a greatest common factor in all of this. 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 2, 2 goes into 10, but 2 doesn't go into 5. 5 goes into 10, but doesn't go into these others. So the solution is to factor by grouping, and then we can try and find the greatest common factor once we simplify it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So the greatest common factor in this, I see that 2 goes into 4 twice and 2 goes into 2 once. So we would break that down. We would just put the 2 on the outside, simplify the 4 into a 2, and turn it into a y, because 2 times 2x is 4, and 2 times negative y is negative 2y. Next, what is the greatest common factor in this 5y squared 10xy? Well, something special happened here, because we have a y with a exponent, and we also have a y that shows up here. So what we do is we not only look at the numbers, but we also look at the variables. We know that 5 goes into 10, and that's a greatest common factor. Also, the y, since it's squared, also is going to be a greatest common factor. So as we did with the first side, we will group that in. 5y. Sorry. Let me fix that. 5y. And simplify it. 2x plus y. Now, when we're trying to find the greatest common factor and factor, we want to have, ideally, these two with the same signs inside. I factored out a positive 5, and it ended up having a different sign. This one is a minus, this one is a positive, but they have the same numbers in the parentheses. So we can simply factor out a negative 5, because it would still make sense, and it would be able to satisfy both of these factors. So if I take it out, the positive, and I put in a negative, it would still end up in the same, because negative 5y times 2x would equal negative 10xy, and negative 5 times negative y would be positive 5y squared. So this is something important that you should always keep in mind. You should always try and make this the same, so then we can factor it out. So let's take that a step further and break it down into binomials. 10x minus y times what? What times 2x, excuse me, I said 10x. What times 2x minus y would equal 4x minus y? And a simple number would equal 4 and 2y. I think that would be 2. And lastly, what would equal 10xy minus 5y? Negative 5y. And so we've gotten our greatest common factor, which is a 2x minus y, and we've also factored these. So we factored this out, got our greatest common factor, and there we go.